Don't live by budgets, live by margins.
Mm.
My secret in my life, and it's crazy, I'm just telling you, it's crazy, but it's biblical, is I have never had a personal budget. And with any business, even in our church, we do not live by budgets. We live by margins. Why would I say that? In other words, you've got to create margin in your life. So when God says, give the first 10%, tithe the first 10%, what he's saying is, he's not looking at, well, you only make $40,000 a year, or 400,000, or 4 million, or 400 million. He doesn't care how much you make. You care, but he doesn't care. You've got to, that 10%, God's trying to teach us to live by margins, to live by percentages.
Yeah.
Every business owner understands this professionally, but they don't understand it personally. Many people don't understand it personally. So we're doing some work on this house here. And so after I did the deal with the people that are doing duct work for us, people that are doing stuff on our pool, I said, let me ask you a question. What kind of margins do you guys try to get on a job? Not how much money do you get for a job. And again, this is how most people think. They think about how much money they make, how much money they have, or how much money they don't have. They don't understand the magic of margins. And so both people, one was in the HVAC space, and the other is in the pool space. They said 30 to 35%. So again, doesn't matter how big the job is, how small the job is.
It could be $1 million job, could be a $10,000
Their
job.
goal is to get 30 or 35%, and then they said, on really good days, 50%. So most people, that's very easy, very easy. But if I were to talk to that guy personally, if I kicked my coach on, my think coach on, I'd say, what kind of margins do you live by?
Personally, yeah.
Oh, well, what do you mean? Same thing. You're very quickly, you say, we know we're doing good if we get 30 to 35%, and on great jobs, 50%. What kind of margins do you live with? I promise you, they could not have answered that question. Yeah. Well, when it's all said and done, so here's where it started for me, Josh. Here's where it started. I was 23 years old. It was 1983. And I told your mom this. We just got married. I said, we'll never live on more than 70% of our income. When I told her that, I was making $16,800 a year. Now, in 1983, in 2023 money, that'd be $44,000 approximately. But I was making $16,800 a year. And I said, we're never going to live on more than 70% of our income. The first 10% we're going to return to God. She's going, okay. Second 10% is we're going to seek to give up to 10%, sometimes more than 10%, but we'll always have a margin that we'll give over and above to God, because what does the word say? Malachi, the first things and the last things people say are important. The last thing God said to in the Old Testament, before there was 400 years of silence, was, don't rob me in tithes and offerings. So God didn't care if you give him $1,000, $100,000, $1 million. He didn't care about that. What he cares about, are you putting him first, a tithe, and then secondly, what are you deciding to give in terms of a margin of your income? That's how I've rolled my whole life. It's like, I'm going to create this margin, not in amounts. Most Christians, and certainly people that aren't Christians, they think about amounts. How much does this cost? No, what's the margin?
Or they say, we're going to try to save this much a month. Like, we're going to try to get to this point, we save this much a month, but then, for some of us, we might be even saving too much. Right, or too little. It's like, well, we're going to save $1,000 a month. If you make $50,000 a month and you're saving $1,000 a month, your margins are off.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just base it on the dollar amount, and what you've always taught, and what you've lived, is the 70-10-10-10 principle, which is what you're talking about, where you take the 70, but you got 10% goes to God.
It's returned.
10% is over and above giving, that you call generosity. And the third 10% is savings.
And that's the big one right there too. The big one, like the middle one has fluxed for me. There's some years where I haven't given up to 10%. I've always returned to God his 10%. But what I've given over and above has always been a percentage. Some years it's been more than 10%. Some years it's been less, depending on my season of life. But what hasn't ever changed is the first one and the last one. The last one is I've always put 10% made a 10% margin for savings or for what I call retirement. It's not even savings. It's retirement.
Yeah.
And we don't have time to do a deep dive on that because I do that in my financial philosophy. I do that in our Wheel of Life.
Or you're writing a book right now called 22 Rules for Money. You got you got a bunch of chapters in there about that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they just think that they're going to work forever.
So let me just say this to encapsulate the thought process. Is 70-10-10-10 is a life lived with a money mindset of margins. The magic is in the margins, it's not in the budgets. Budgets are subject to margins, not margins subject to budgets. And to really get that.
Yeah.
And then the thing I would say along with that would be this, is that that your margins will be something that guides you for the rest of your life, personally and professionally. You'll be able to say, okay, so my original goal was to live on 70% of our income. Right now, we have houses in 3 different states. We've got a $15 million net worth, probably approaching more like 20 million. And now we live on about 30%. My goal is to get down in terms of the income that I bring in. We live on really less than 30%, probably more like 24, 27% right now. But I'm always watching the margin, and what is my desire? My desire is to do what JCPenney did. My desire is to get my life where I live on 10%, whatever that 10% is, and then I do all the other that I want to do in terms of investing, in terms of creating generational wealth, in terms of
giving,
of establishing the kingdom of God forever, endowing the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I'll just pause right there, kind of pitch it to you because I know we're at the end here.